that I mean the one with the hat. If we remove who was wearing a hat, the fundamental meaning of the sentence changes. We are no longer specifically referring to the hat-wearing man, we're just referring to the man, which could mean any of those men. This is why in this sentence, who was wearing a hat is considered defining. Now we're going to make a very small change to the punctuation of the sentence. In this sentence, who was wearing a hat has been put inside commas, making it a non-defining relative clause. This means the clause is not essential to the meaning of the sentence. The information in the clause is considered extra. So, if we remove it, the meaning of the sentence doesn't change. It might seem strange that a simple comma can change the meaning of a sentence, but that is the case with defining and non-defining relative clauses. So, what you need to remember is if the clause is between commas, it's non-defining, and if it's not between commas, it's defining.
Okay, did we share this video within you the last lecture or not? This video is a new or it is old one for you?
No, you shared the last lecture.
We shared it the last lecture, and that was the end, or we continue? And this was
No,
the end.
You said there is another video.
So after this one, right?
Yeah, you explain about this video and you said there is another video you shared with us.
So now we are going to watch the second video, and I want you to pay attention to this one, okay? Because many information, or a lot of information are there, okay? Just inform your students that there is no more space for them within the second link. If they want to join the lecture, they can click on the first link or on the third line, okay? Just inform them.
Or part of a sentence. So an example could be, I can't cook very well, but I make quite good pancakes. I can't cook very well is a clause, and I make quite good pancakes is a clause too. They are main or independent clauses, that is, they are of equal importance and could each exist as a separate sentence, but we won't go into that today. Each clause has a subject, I, and a verb, here cook and make. Whereas a relative clause starts with a relative pronoun, either who, which, that, whose, where, when, whom, and why. For example, the man who called you is my dentist. The relative clause is who called you. There are two types of relative clause, defining and non-defining. So what is a defining relative clause? Defining relative clauses give us essential information that we need to understand what or who is being referred to. A defining relative clause usually comes immediately after the noun it describes. For example, the dentist who treated me is my uncle. The relative clause tells us which dentist we are talking about. It is essential information. If we removed the clause, we would not know which dentist we are talking about. And it comes immediately after the noun it describes, here the dentist. Whereas relative clauses that give us extra information are called non-defining relative clauses. For instance, my uncle is a dentist who plays at the same cricket club as you. We already know which dentist, it's my uncle, who plays at the same cricket club as you, does not tell us which dentist we are talking about. It just adds extra information. So what are the other differences between defining and non-defining relative clauses? First up, defining relative clauses are never separated from the rest of the sentence by commas. The dentist who treated me is my uncle has no commas. Whereas non-defining relative clauses must be separated from the rest of the sentence by commas. My uncle is a dentist, comma, who plays at the same cricket club as you. Defining relative clauses and non-defining relative clauses may both begin with these relative pronouns. Who, for people. The woman who lives next door is a doctor. This is essential information. Without the relative clause, we would not know which woman we were talking about, so it's a defining relative clause. Whereas my brother Tim, who lives in Scotland, is a doctor, is a non-defining relative clause because it is simply adding extra information. Notice the two commas when it is in the middle of a sentence. Which, for things. Brian works for a company which makes computers. Here it is a defining relative clause. It is essential information, otherwise we do not know which company Brian works for. Whereas, Brian told me about his new job, comma, which he is not enjoying very much. This is adding extra information, so it's a non-defining relative clause. Notice the comma. Whose. Instead of his, her, or their, we usually use whose as a relative pronoun to indicate possession by people and animals. So in a defining clause, we could say, we met some people whose car had broken down, essential information to know who we met, or in a non-defining clause, Sam, whose car had broken down, was in a bad mood. This is simply adding extra information, so it's a non-defining clause. Where, for places. In a defining clause, you could say, what is the name of the place where you went on holiday? This is essential information. Or, non-defining, Jane has just been to Oxford, where her dad lives. When, for times. I remember the day when I met you. Essential information, so defining, and additionally in defining relative clauses, using when, the when can be omitted. So you could also say, so I remember the day I met you. And this picture was taken yesterday when it was raining. This is adding extra information, so therefore it's a non-defining clause. Whom, for people as the object of a clause. This is mainly used in written English and is increasingly rare. For example, this is George, whom you met last year. And in a non-defining clause, this morning I met Charles, whom I hadn't seen for ages. Some relative pronouns can only be used in defining clauses. Why can only be used in a defining relative clause after the words the reason. So, for example, the film was the reason why he became famous. And like when, the relative pronoun why can be omitted in defining relative clauses. So you can also say, the film was the reason he became famous. And you cannot use why in non-defining relative clauses. That can only be used in defining relative clauses to replace who, whom, or which. So you could say the picture which hangs on the wall, or also correct is the picture that hangs on the wall, or with who, the woman who he married, or the woman that he married. Or this is George, whom you met last year, or this is George, that you met last year. Equally correct. So you cannot use that in non-defining relative clauses. Next, who, which, or that can be omitted when they're the object of the clause. The medicine, which or that the doctor gave me, should be taken twice a day. Here the medicine is the object of the clause, the subject doing the action is the doctor, What did he give? The medicine, the object of the clause. So here you can leave out which or that and just say, the medicine the doctor gave me should be taken twice a day. Whereas in non-defining clauses, you cannot leave out the relative pronoun. Both in defining and non-defining relative clauses, the relative pronoun can define the subject or the object of the verb. So firstly, in defining relative clauses, we have the picture which hangs on the wall is old. Here, the relative pronoun which describes the subject of the sentence, the picture. And here, the man who she married is Spanish, who is defining the object of the verb. In non-defining relative clauses, it's the same. In this sentence, the building, which is very old, needs repairing, which is defining the subject of the verb. And in this sentence, the boat owner, who we've just seen, loves meeting people, who defines the object of the verb. For both defining and non-defining relative clauses, we always omit the object pronoun, her, him, it, etc., when we make a relative clause. So you could say, we know little about the woman that he married, and not, we know little about the woman that he married her. Or, this picture shows Bob's wife Lucy, who he married in 2019, and not, this picture shows Bob's wife Lucy, who he married her in 2019. In both defining and non-defining relative clauses, you usually have the preposition at the end of the clause. So it's the one which he is responsible for at work. In a defining clause, and Sue, who my mother worked with, has become a teacher. In formal English, in both defining and non-defining relative clauses, you sometimes have a preposition at the beginning of the clause, followed by which for things or whom for people. So in defining relative clauses, you could say it's the one for which he was responsible at work, and in non-defining relative clauses, Sue, with whom my mother worked, has become a teacher. Also, in both defining and non-defining relative clauses, we cannot use that after a preposition in a relative clause. So you would say, the room in which the meeting was held was too small, and not the room in that the meeting was held was too small. And finally, defining relative clauses are used in writing and speaking, whereas non-defining relative clauses are more common in writing than in speaking. So now it's your turn. Choose the correct...
Now, this is a video of the most important differences between defining and non-defining relative clauses. Okay, and I want you to read it carefully before the exam, of course, and I'm going to share with you what is the rest of the lecture. We didn't tackle the last lecture. And actually what is there in the rest of the lecture, she had mentioned it in the in this video. Okay. I think that I published the link of this video on the Google Classroom, the last lecture, and I hope you have seen it. Okay. Now, the screen is shared with all of you, and I'm going to talk a little about defining and non-defining relative clauses. Most of the things that I'm going to mention, she mentioned them in the video, and as I said, I want you to re-watch it and write down the information, the ideas in your notebook. There are many examples within the discussion of this video. Now, we have defining and non-defining relative clauses. As I said the last lecture, defining, it means something essential, something important, something you cannot delete if you want to understand the meaning of the complex sentence. Okay, so the defining relative clause cannot be deleted if you want to understand the meaning of the complex sentence. If you delete it, actually the sentence is going to be a simple sentence. Now, within this simple sentence, if you want to, you may add more information within other sentences. It's not necessary to be within a clause. Whereas within non-defining relative clause, as we said, the non-defining relative clause is the clause which carries extra information, so we can delete it. They are not that necessary for the understanding of the complex sentence. They make the sentence to be a complex one, but they are not that much necessary for the understanding of the complex sentence. Don't forget this. The defining relative clauses, they are important for the understanding of the complex sentences, whereas the non-defining clauses, they are not important for the understanding of the complex sentence, but they are part of the complex sentence. Both of them, the defining and the non-defining. If you delete them, the sentence is going to be maybe a simple sentence or a compound sentence. Okay, so don't forget this idea. Now, we use defining relative clause to give essential information, as I said, about someone or something. This information we need in order to understand who is being referred to. Yes, Murtada. Yes, Murtada.
نعم ست.
Yes. Why did you open your mic? What do you want, Murtada? Okay. Now, we said that this information we need in order to understand what or who is being referred to. Okay, a defining relative clause usually comes immediately after the noun it describes. And both of them, they came after the noun, but the defining relative clause should be, it is a must to be immediately after the
والله كل شيء ما افتهم بس.
What's wrong with you, Murtada?
ما قلت كل شيء ما افتهم.
ما فهمت من شنو؟ مرتضى ما فهمت من شنو؟ أنا بعدني حكيت، بعدني شرحت. The sound is clear for all of you? Other students, the sound is clear or not?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay.
Yes, Doctor.
Did you hear the video? Did you hear the video, all of you?
Yes, Doctor,
Yes.
we hear it.
So what? Maybe the problem is with Murtada only, or what? What is the idea? Okay. Yani out of 200 students, one of them saying we don't understand anything, it is not yani that great number, you know. If you don't understand something, today is our discussion lecture and you can ask what do you want. Simply if you want to say something يا مرتضى, you had to say it in English. مو تقول كل شيء ما افتهمني. And this is the most simple sentence you can say it. Okay? So don't say anything in Arabic next time. If you want something, you can ask in English, not in Arabic. I think that now you can hear me, ya Murtada Sabah. Okay. We usually use, as I said, a relative pronoun within who, they are, who, that, which, whose, and whom to introduce a defining relative clause. Now, in this example, they are the people who want to buy our house. They are the people who want to buy our house. Who want to buy our house? This is defining relative clause. Why? Because the people, yes, it is written the people there, but who are those people? Who are they? This is something non-clear. It is something not clear. Okay? So I want to add more information about those people. I'm going to say who want to buy our house, not anyone else. Only those people who want to buy our house. Here are they. They are there in our place with us now. Okay? They are. Maybe he is introducing them to someone else. He's saying they are the people who want to buy our house. Now, here are some cells which have been affected. Here are some cells which have been affected. I want to add more information about some cells. I think that there are a lot of cells, and I am addressing, or I am referring to some of them, and I gave you adjectives about these cells, which ones which have been affected, which have been damaged, for example. Okay, which have been damaged, get damaged. Okay, so this is defining relative clause. It is defining relative clause. They should give the money to somebody. Somebody. Who is that somebody? I don't know. I want to add more information about that somebody. Who they think needs the treatment most. Who they think need the treatment most. So I am talking about a person. I'm talking about a person who they think they should give the money. They, the subject. They should give the money. Who they? They, the same they there. They here are the same they there. Who they think he needs. Who they think he needs the treatment most. Okay? I can't say he needs, because somebody is there within the sentence. Now, the fourth example, she is now playing a woman. She is now playing a woman. I think now I am talking about an actress, and I want to add more information about that actress. I say she is now playing a woman whose son was killed in the First World War. Her son, actually it was her son, or the woman's son, was killed in the First World War. Instead of saying the woman's son, I said whose son was killed in the First World War. Now, who is that woman? I don't know. Thus, this clause is defining relative clause. The defining relative clause could be a subject of the independent clause, and it could be the object of the independent clause. The first one, they are the people. This is one of the features of the defining relative clauses. You can use who and you can use that. Both of them are correct. Why? Because it is defining relative clause. Because it is defining relative clause. How do you know that it is a defining relative clause? There is no comma. There is no comma, so it is defining relative clause. In defining relative clauses, you can use who or substitute it within that. You can use which or substitute it within that. You can use whom or substitute it within that. Using who or that, which or that, whom or that, both of them are correct. Both of them. Not يعني I ما جاي أقول who or which. No, I am saying who or that. Why both of them are correct? Because this is defining relative clause. يعني ممكن أنا أقول they are the people who bought our house, وممكن أقول they are the people that bought our house. Both of them are correct. Okay? Now, the people is the subject. The people is the subject. So I put who as a relative pronoun for people. Okay? But instead of saying they want, they bought, or they want to buy our house, they bought. Yes? Instead of saying the people they want, or they bought, I said the people who or that bought our house. Now, they are the people also who or that she meet them. She meet them. Now this is the what? It is the object of the sentence. It is the object of the sentence. Who or that she meet them, the people. Now it is now, they are now what? The object of the sentence. They are the object of the sentence. And it is, now I can say them here. I met the people. They are the people who or that she meet or she met them at the party. But I can't say them. Instead of them I said what? Who or that. شفتوا شنو الفرق بين الاثنين هنا؟ هنا the people هم يعني هسه راح اكتب لكم اياها مرة ثانية هنا. راح اكتب لكم اياها مرة ثانية يمها او فوقها. الجمل الأصلية اللي قبل لا أنا أسويهم complex sentence. هذه هنا راح أكتبها they are the people. Okay, full stop. She met them at Joe's party. وتكملون. اوكي بس خلينا نجيبها من هاي الجهة. Joe's party. هذه أصلها كانت. These are the original sentences. Two simple ones. If I want to combine these two sentences together to be a complex sentence, I have to say they are the people. They are the people. Instead of يعني to link this within this one, I should say, because people human, I can say who or that. Who or that. She met them should be deleted. Who or that طبعا ما كنا عندنا نقطة، لازم هنا تكون عندنا، لازم نشيلها. They are the people who or that she met at John's party.
This is صدق هذا بالاهتمام.
Who's talking? Who was talking? Who was talking? Ali Hussein, who was talking?
هذا نفسه مرتضى.
Okay. Now, the first one, if we want to write the original sentence of it، طبعا هاي راح ارجعها ال second one، راح ارجع ال original sentence حتى تكون واضحة عندكم. The first one, if I want to rewrite the original sentence of them, it is they are the people. Okay, full stop. They bought our house. They bought our house. Now شوفوا هذه الجملة الأولى، they are the people, they bought our house. Okay, هنا they are the people, she met them at John's party. هنا ال relative pronoun, it is the subject of the relative clause, and now here it is the object of the second sentence or the relative clause. I'm going to make it the relative clause. Okay, now if here look at it, they are the people, I wrote it down, they are the people. Instead of they, I delete they, I put who or that, both of them are correct, bought our house. Who or that bought our house. Now this is what is meant by subject or object. The relative pronoun can define the subject or the object of the verb. Here it is the subject of the verb, the subject of the verb. Here it is the object of the verb. Here it is the object of the verb. Okay, and you have another example, another two examples. In this one it is the subject, which is non-human, new cells, which is not non-human, and now this is the new cells, we have it as the object. يعني إذا أريد بس أعطيكم الثانية هنا، here are some cells. Okay, full stop. The researcher, okay, the researcher has identified them, has identified them. Okay, I want to make them one sentence. These two sentences, I want to make them one sentence by joining them within a relative adjectival clause. I'm going to say what? Here are some cells. Okay, which or that I delete them. Which or that I delete them. Which or that the researcher has identified. Okay. Now, sometimes these relative pronouns I can delete them. Yani it is okay. It is okay to say they are the people bought our house, and I can say they are the people she met at John's party. I delete who or that within the defining relative clauses. It is okay. Okay, but I cannot do such a thing within non-defining relative clauses. I cannot do such a thing within non-defining relative clauses. I cannot delete them, and of course I cannot substitute that instead of who or instead of which or instead of whom اللي احنا راح ناخذها بعدين بالهذا. Now we have a warning here. Some of the students say don't use commas in defining relative clauses because the commas are what are part of non-defining relative clauses. So you cannot, when you put a comma here, this is a man who takes his responsibility seriously. It cannot be non-defining relative clause unless there is only one man in the situation that I am talking about. As we said when we have said that this is the man who is wearing a hat, or this is the man who is wearing the hat, right? اللي كان بالexample اللي حكينا بالمحاضرة اللي فاتت. So with defining relative clauses you cannot use a comma. Within defining relative clauses I cannot use a comma. يعني إذا أنا قلت for example this is my father, إذا قلت أنا this is my father، ممكن هسه بأي حال من الأحوال تكون هذه non-defining clauses. يعني ممكن أنا أقول who takes، العفو ممكن تكون بأي حال من الأحوال تكون هذه defining relative clauses. This is my father who take his responsibility. ممكن أكتبها بهالطريقة، ممكن وأكمل يعني can I، بس خلينا نشوف من اللي رافع ايده. يس يا محمد صافي، محمد لفتة صافي شريف، right.
Yes, good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
We can't.
Why?
Because this is one father.
How many fathers do you have?
This is essential.
Yeah. How many father do you have?
One father.
Okay. So it is going to be defining or non-defining, yeah, Mohammed Lafte?
When become one father, it is non-defining.
Non-defining, okay, because
this specific.
The father
and
is specific. The father is specific. Only one father, and
yes.
This idea or this information, they are extra information, right?
Yes, in the sentence, extra information.
Yeah.
Who takes is this?
Okay, so this is my father, you know, and my father, he takes his responsibility, okay, all over
yes.
the time. Yeah, so I cannot. But if I say this is the man, it could be defining and non-defining. It depends upon what does you want to, what does the teacher want you to understand. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we have nouns and pronouns in relative clauses, and now we are still within defining relative clauses. We are still within defining relative clauses. When the relative pronoun is the subject of the relative clause, we don't use another personal pronoun or noun in the relative clause because the subject is the same. يعني for example طبعا أنا هسه حكيتها من الساعة فوق. Most of the students, they are doing what? In this example, they are saying she is the lady who she lent me her phone. She is the lady who she lent me her phone. So I said using we don't use another personal pronoun, our noun in the relative clause if it is the same subject underline. يعني this is the lady, I can't say who she lent me her phone. No, I should say she is the lady who lent me her phone. Why? Because she and the lady are the same, and I substitute she within who. بدلت she بمن؟ بهو. فراح يصير عندي lady والهو والشي, they are the same person. Too much, right? فالأفضل شنو أشيل؟ الأفضل إن أنا أشيل الشي بالجملة الثانية. يعني إذا أريد أرجع أكتبها هذه الجملة راح أقول she is the lady, okay, full stop. She lent me her phone. She lent me. This is the original sentences. These are the original sentences. إذا أردتكم تسوونها تربطوها اثنيناتهم شو راح تقولون؟ She is the lady. Okay, the lady is a human being. I can say who or whom lent me her phone. Without she. This she is deleted. Okay? Is there a question? Do you have a question? Yes, Mustafa. Yes, Mustafa Muhammad Salah.
Sorry, Miss. Can I say? Can I say she is the lady who she lent her phone?
No. Who she lent her phone? Who she lent her phone?
Her phone. Yes, I omitted me. Can I omit me and substitute it with who?
Who she lent her phone?
Who she lent her phone?
She is the lady who she lent.
Who? Her phone.
Who lent her phone? Why? Who lent her phone? Why who she lent her phone? You don't want to mention for whom she lent the phone, right? Hey, just
Yes,
like this,
I
yeah,
don't
Mustafa.
want to mention me.
Mustafa, just like this one.
The object me.
Bawali. She lent her phone.
Yes.
Oh?
Yes.
Yes. Now,
Yes,
شو راح
right.
تسووها؟ شو راح تسويها؟ She is the lady who lent. Who lent? ماكو who she lent. Who lent her phone.
Oh, okay.
In this case, you don't want to mention for whom she lent her phone. بهالحالة أنت ما تريد توضح علما هي أعطت بس فقط تريد تقول هي أعارت تليفونها، لكن علما ما تريد تقول، مو صحيح؟
So I should delete she and me at the same time.
And me, yes. إذا أنت بالجملة الأصلية اللي منطينها إلك ما بيها مي مثل هسه شلون هسه هنا هذه، فما ما تنطي بعد مي، أوكي؟ بس أنت بكل الأحوال لازم you have to delete she. Okay?
All right.
Yeah. Now, so it is wrong to say. Now طبعا هنا أنا لازم أرجع المي لأنها كانت حسب. Yeah. Okay. This is the lady. She lent me her phone. I can say this is the lady who lent me her phone. أو إذا ما if you don't want, it is not mentioned for whom did she lend her phone. So you can say this is the lady who lent her phone without saying for whom. Now, there are now only 2 schools in the area that actually teach Latin. Now, this is non-human, and it is the 2 schools. And actually, what was the actual? There are now only 2 schools. Okay, there are now only 2 schools in the area. Okay, full stop. They actually teach Latin. Who are teaching Latin? The schools, not the teachers. The schools, okay? The schools teach Latin. Now, if I want to connect it, I can say there are now 2 schools in the area that actually, or which actually, teach Latin. Both of them are correct. That actually, or which actually, teach Latin. Both of them are correct. Okay? Now, that is the subject of the relative clause. It is non-human. So we don't need the personal pronoun they. We don't need this they. I'm going to delete them. This word. Okay? So it is wrong to say they are now only 2 schools in the area that they actually teach Latin. They actually, no, not wrong. That actually teach Latin. When the relative pronoun is the object of the relative clause. هسه احنا حكيناهم على انها the subject of the relative clause. Now we are going to say if it is the object of the relative clause, what I am going to do. Look, we had a lovely meal at the place which felt recommended. Actually, the original sentence is we had a lovely meal at the place, okay, comma, Phil recommended the place. Oh, it. Okay. Phil recommended it. Now, what did I do? We had a lovely meal at the place. Okay. The most suitable way to do it is what? Which or that, both of them are correct. Which or that, Phil recommended without the place or it. We delete them. The place is the object of the relative clause, right? Phil recommended the place. The place is the object. You have to delete the place. Why? Because you put the word which instead of it. مو احنا قلنا الويتش هو دلالة على البليس وهذه كلمة place هنا. So you have to delete the place or the pronoun it. أو إذا أنت مخلي البروناون it تشيله. يعني هنا هسه البليس وإت اثنيناتهم نفس الكلمة. اثنيناتهم يشيرون لنفس الكلمة. Okay? The students are doing what? الطلاب شو يسوون من يجون بهاي الجملة؟ شو يكتبوا لي؟ يكتبوا لي we had a lovely meal at the place which Phil recommended it. الغلط كله وين هنا؟ الغلط كله باستخدام الات. يعني بس تشيلون الات هذه الجملة راح تكون صحيحة. ممكن أقول that وممكن أقول which. كليناتهم صحيحات. Is there any question till this moment? أكو أي سؤال لحد هذه اللحظة؟ على defining relative clauses. Do you have any question within the defining relative clauses till this moment? Okay. Now we are going to talk about non-defining relative clauses. We are going to talk about non-defining relative clauses. I'm giving some extra example about them. Now, we said that non-defining relative clauses, we mention extra information about the person or the thing. It is not necessary information. بس خلوا في بالكم, if it is not necessary information, when you delete them, شو راح يصير بالجملة؟ إذا هنا عندنا بس 2 clauses, راح تتحول الجملة إلى ماذا؟ It is going to be a simple sentence. أو إذا هي عندنا بعد عندنا time clause, العفو عندنا coordinated clause, راح تتحول الجملة إلى compound sentence. واضح؟ لأن إحنا بعدين راح ناخذ complex compound sentence. They are not necessary in understanding the meaning of the complex sentence. لكن they are necessary in the formation, in the structure of the complex sentence. هم مهمات بتركيبة الجملة المعقدة. Okay? Now, the types of the relative pronouns are who, which, whose or whom. طبعا هنا ما كتبنا that. ليش ما كتبنا that؟ منو يعرف؟ ليش ما كتبنا that؟ We didn't mention that now. Why? Yes يا هدى عبد الكريم فيصل.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah.
Because in non-defining relative clauses, we didn't use that.
We
We
cannot
use
use
only
that.
with.
Not we didn't. We cannot
Yes,
substitute
we
which.
cannot.
We cannot substitute who or which or whose or whom by that. اوكي طبعا الهوز ما ممكن نستخدمها
Yes.
بهذا اللي عندنا الهو والويتش والهوم. We cannot substitute them within that. It is forbidden. It is not correct. اوكي فلهذا ما كتبنا that. Clear? Now. So to introduce a non-defining clause in the examples, the relative clause is in bold. The relative clause هذه relative clause اللي هو dependent clause, and the person or the thing being referred to is underlined. Now, Clara or Claire is who I work with is doing the London Marathon this year. Just a minute, please. Just a minute. hello أمل. اي والله بعد. Okay. Now we have Clara, who I work with, is doing the London Marathon this year. Actually, it is Clara is doing the London Marathon this year. I work with her. Okay, I work with her. Now, when I want to mix them together, I said, Clara, who I work with, is doing the London Marathon this year. In this case, I cannot delete who. Even who cannot be deleted, as we did within the defining relative clauses. Why? Because this is non-defining relative clause. The relative pronouns are necessary within the non-defining relative clauses. Okay? The same thing here. طبعا it is non-defining. Why? Because I mentioned the name of the person. Clara is there. So it is non-defining. It is definitely non-defining relative clause. Unless we have many Claras in our class and I want to identify which one of them I am talking about. Okay? Now, doctors use the testing kit for regular screening for lung and stomach cancers. Now, which account for 70% of cancers treated in the Western world? Now, this is non-defining. Why? Because I identify which kind of cancer I am talking about. So it is non-defining. And it is wrong to say which lung and stomach cancer account for. نترجع مرة ثانية تقول which lung and no, this is wrong. Which account? You have to delete lung and okay. Which they account? No, wrong. Which they account? Wrong. You have to say which account for. Also, Alice, who has worked in Brussels and London ever since leaving Edinburgh, will be starting a teaching course in the autumn. You cannot say who she worked. Who she worked. Okay? Wrong to say who she worked in Brussels and London. No. And you cannot also delete who. No, you cannot delete who. You have to keep who, which, and who there. Okay? Now, we don't use that, as I said, we don't use that to introduce a non-defining relative clause, as it is shown in this example. Now, what was left? Non-defining, and it is mentioned within the video. Most of them are mentioned within the video. If you have a question, I am ready to answer your questions. If not, we will do the exercise. Do you have a question related to the yes يا كاظم عادل محمد?
No, I don't have questions, but I answer
You want to do the exercise, okay?
Yeah.
No, first of all, do you have any question? Any one of you? Do you have a question you want to ask? Yes, Muhammad left it.
Yes, doctor. Doctor, I have a question about defining clause.
Yeah.
Okay, just a second. At the beginning, defining. Why we don't delete she, like example?
Which one?
Okay, they are the people, and they are the people. Who or that? When we use who or that, after who or that, she. We can delete she or not in the object.
No, no, no. They are the people she met. No, no. You don't delete
Because
she.
because the object.
No, the people, who and she. They are the same. The same. The same. The same. يعني the same element. The same word.
No,
Are they the same?
No.
No. But the people, who and them, they are still the same, right? The people.
Yes.
who البروناون who اللي احنا راح نستخدمه او that اللي احنا ممكن نستخدمه و them. They are the same or not?
Yes, the same.
So I'm going to delete which one?
The who or that? That's mean?
No, no. The people,
Okay.
who, or that, and them. They are the same.
Them.
So you have to delete what? Them. You can't write those are the people, they are the people, who or that she met them. Now,
because this one the same.
The who and the people, they are the same. And them also the same, okay? Even though it is the object of the dependency clause, even though it is the object of the dependency clause, but the people and who are the same. You are using the relative pronoun. The pronoun is there, so you don't need them here.
Okay, but the second there is no the same. She and people.
She is not the same like the people. It is
Okay, of course, this singular and this pronoun.
Of course.
Plural.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yes, Muna Hashim.
Yes, doctor. In some sentence, the information could be both essential and not essential. It depends on the
Which one, yeah,
example, a man.
Which example? Which example, Mama?
About man. Just a minute.
There are many men in the examples. Which one?
Yes, I will find it. Just a minute.
Read it.
Okay. This is a man who takes his responsibilities seriously.
Yeah.
Yes. This is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be both essential and not essential.
No. You know why?
Yes. No. Just a minute. This is a man who takes his responsibility seriously. We have a lot of men, and we refer to the man.
We have many, not a lot of. We have many men. Okay.
Yeah, but if we have just one man, we can use the type number 2, which is non-defining relative clauses. So we can use comma and who takes his responsibility seriously. This is the man. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now here, وكملين طبعا كملين. Now here you can write it just like this, and you can write it just like that. This is the man who. This is your question, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Now.
But here we use this.
Yeah. Now both of them could be What do you expect in the exam to have? But close the mic, Mona, please. What do you expect in the exam to have? In the exam, I'm going to write for you these two sentences and I am going to ask you to differentiate between them. Why in the first one it is defining and in the second one it is non-defining. Okay? Yeah, Mona, now?
Yes, okay, it is clear.
Okay, it is clear, yeah. Okay, who else? Muhammad Faiz Sultan. Yes, Muhammad.
Yes, doctor. Yes, in the last lecture you said we can define between defining and non-defining sentences by
Differentiate, not
differentiate.
define.
Yeah.
Differentiate, yes, between define and
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, you said by the meaning. Now, there is an example here in the schedule. His brother who works at the supermarket is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there is, you said by the meaning. Now, the two sentences are the same meaning, but there is a difference in the commas. So the reason is.
Just a minute, if you don't mind. Just a minute.
Yeah.
الو الو نعم عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. اي نعم. جمعية اسكان مواني شارع الميثاق. وين اذا جاي من شارع بغداد المحكمة القديم المحكمة الجديدة العفو. عافية اذا انت
closes.
So you have to put the
We
comma.
we have to add comma, yes.
Why يا كاظم?
Because there's a extra information. When you said we stayed at the Park Hotel, this is standard alone meaning. The Park Hotel is defining.
Why
So we not
why it is defining?
Because the Park Hotel is a specific
place and this is the name of that place.
Yes.
This is the name of that place. يعني كأنما you are saying that I am going to stay at the Hilton. One hotel in every
yes.
Place or city, right? So it is
yes.
Understood. Yeah.
Yes.
إذا يا ليلى إذا كتبت لي إياها هيك بدون كوما راح ما أعطيش درجة كاملة. أوكي؟ يعني وإذا هي درجة فما راح أعطيش من عندها أي شيء.
You put comma.
You should put comma to show that
before,
this is non-defining relatively close.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, يا كاظم. The second one. رجاء هالة عبد الله بدر. Yes, هالة.
Good morning.
Yeah, it is not morning. No more.
Sorry, it's still there is like more 5 minutes.
No, it is the adhan is their prayer. Now it's the
okay.
prayer. Yeah, right. Yes. Okay. So hi.
Yeah. So we go. We say we often go to visit our friends in Cambridge, which isn't far from London, and we put a comma after Cambridge because it's non-defining.
Why?
Because there is only one place in the world called Cambridge, so.
Good. So now you are very fast, you know. I'm going to write it one word after another. We often go to visit our friends. Yes, please.
In Cambridge.
Okay.
And we put a comma.
Cambridge.
Which isn't far from London.
Comma. Which
isn't far
from London. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, can I say which it is not far from London? Can I say which it is not far from London? Can I say it? Which it is not far from London. يا بعدني وياك.
Oh, with me. No, we can't. We don't use more than one pronoun in the word. Since we have which, we don't need to use it.
More than which, but what do we have?
We have Cambridge already, so we don't. So we don't have to use it to refer to the word.
Which is related to Cambridge, and it is also related. So we don't. You cannot.
Yeah, it's extra.
Yeah, it is extra. So you have to delete it. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Thank you. I went to see the doctor. She told me I needed to change my diet. Now, what do you think? هبة عبد الزهرة قاطع شلتها. Yes, يا هبة.
Yes, doctor. Number 4, I went to say the doctor, comma.
I went to see, not
I went to see. Sorry.
Yes.
To see the doctor, comma.
Yes.
When?
When?
When? لا who?
Okay.
Who told me I needed to change my date?
Who told me I needed to change what? What? To change what?
My date.
Date. Okay. Okay. Now, why do you make it non-defining? Yeah, Hibe. Why not defining? Hibe, why do you make it non-defining?
Yes. I want.
You said that I should put comma here, right? And you make it non-defining. Why? I'm going to lower down your hands.
Have extra information.
Why do you regard it as extra information? Why do you regard it as extra information?
I don't know.
How comes? How do you solve it without knowing how to do it? احجز صديق احجز صديق
ست
طاش اياها الحال لا شنو؟
لا درستها بس.
اوكي يس يا منى فاخر ماضي يس. ثانك يو يا زهرة. يس منى فاخر.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
About the point 4, because we talk about one doctor, we have extra information about it.
How do you know that there is only one doctor? No, there are many doctors.
I want to see the doctor who told me I needed to change my diet.
How do you know that this is a specific doctor? What tells you that this is a specific doctor?
I want to see the doctor who told me I needed to change my diet. I don't identify. There is many doctors.
There are many doctors.
Here. I'm sorry.
So, if there are many doctors,
yes.
So I should change the comma. I should delete the comma, right?
Yes, delete the comma, and this define relative clause.
No, ya Muna Fakhr, no, not correct. Yes, Ali Abdel Rasul, do you know the answer?
Yes, Dr. How?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think because it's right. She told me. Just once she told me.
No.
يعني بس يا دكتور واحد زين. She told me.
How do you know that the doctor is a specific one? Not
From the
one.
sentence.
No.
She
If
told me.
if
Just one, she told me.
yeah, I know, just one. Within the word doctor, it is only one doctor, yani one doctor, not many
Yes.
doctors. But when you say there is something to say that this is a specific doctor, not a general one, not anyone.
I don't know.
You don't know. Yes.
Can I answer?
خلينا نشوف شهد نزار. Yes, شهد نزار.
Yes, doctor, good morning.
Good morning.
Maybe because I say he told me I needed. So, in fact, I have seen it, or sorry, I talked with him last time.
No.
Before that.
When we use defining, non-defining, most of the time we are depending on a grammar, not upon just on semantic. You should depend upon grammar. Okay, yes, yeah, Muhammad.
As you told Muhammad, I think you say depending on the meaning.
No, not depending on the meaning now. Yes, Muhammad Faz. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Yes, Muhammad Faz.
Yeah, well, I have two things. One of them is, I think she or he met a lot of doctors. One of them is change his diet. And the second thing, I don't know, because he used past here. No. She told me I needed.
No. Muhammad left it.
Yes, doctor. We should delete I needed. Okay. This become I want to see the doctor who told me to change my diet.
Okay. Do you know what's the meaning of طبعا هاي نانا هذه nominal clause راح ناخذها المحاضرة القادمة. Who told me that I needed to change my diet? Actually هذه الجملة أصلا هي who told me that I needed to change my diet. وهاي هنا that مو relative pronoun. هذه that هنا nominal clause. اوكي ومو باللزوم يعني مو هي اللي مأثرة على المينينج يا محمد دفتة لا.
This grammatical
صحيحة ما بيها أي شيء.
Yes, true. But the true who told me change to change my diet. Why I use I need?
It is not to change. I need. It is necessary to change my diet. وهي meaning. Okay. Yeah. لا.
This is true. No false.
موجودة needed. I needed is okay. No. ما بيها أي غلط. Yes يا مريم حبيب. مريم حبيب.
Yes. Number 5.
No, we are still within 4.
Yes.
I want you to tell me why do we regard it as non-defining relative clause, not defining relative clause.
The doctor a hint now.
No. Others. Muna Hashim?
Can I answer, doctor?
Muna Hashim, yes, okay.
Because of using the defining article, which is there. Good. So the doctor, we know the doctor because of using the.
The answer is within the defining article there. I didn't say she want to see a doctor. I say she want to see the doctor, a definite doctor. وإحنا ماخذينها definite article there. So definite one, not anyone, a definite one. So she knew this one. She knows this one. Okay, so I went to see the doctor, a specific one, determined by the definite article there. Thanks, Yamuna. Thank you. Is it clear now why it is non-defining relative clause? Not defining relative clause? Is it clear? Now why we regard it as non-defining relative clause and not defining? Okay. Yeah. Stephen is one of my closest friends. I have known him for a very long time. And this is going to be the last one. Yes يا شمس فتحي.
Yes, doctor. Number 5.
Yes.
Stephen, comma, who I have.
Just a minute as usual. Just a minute. من اليوم ما
Okay.
راح نخلص.
Which, if we just have a place and
For example,
extra information.
السكند sentence راح تكون مو هيجي. For example, you have it has wonderful places. For example, ده هيكون second sentence. It has, for example, something. Alaska, which has something, is the largest state in USA. فهمتيني يعني شنو قصدي؟
Yes, I mean that. I ask you if we haven't there, we have just extra information about the place. We can use which, or we must use which.
Yeah, we must use which. Within, for example,
Yes.
it has something like that, or there are, for example, no, not there are. حتى لو بدك there are لازم تستخدمين where.
It depends on the information we have
Within
it
the
in the
second
sentence.
Yes, it depends upon
Yes.
the information within the second sentence.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Callum, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question about this video. I hear the native speaker, the pronouns Y uses just defying clauses. We do not use the non-defying. Why that's questions.
Why it is some of the why it is related to reason, right? Why it is related to a reason, so you
Yes.
should know the reason.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I get it.
Is it يعني just like the names of persons, the names of places? No, why it is related to a reason, something happened, so you should mention it. It should be defining relative clause. It cannot be within the non-defining relative clauses, because you should know the reason of that, right? The cause of it.
Yes.
Okay.
So other questions.
Yeah.
The third sentence, we often go to visit our friends in Cambridge. Can you use the where? Because this the third sentence, the Cambridge. There's places.
No, how could you use where? You cannot use where, because there is no the word there within the second sentence.
If they're not there, you can't use the
Most
where.
of the time, here, there, you know, these words which are referring to the place. If there is no word which is referring to the place, and of course the meaning also plays a role.
I get it. Thank you, doctor, for this information.
Welcome. Mariam Habib. Yes, Mariam. Do you have something to ask about? No? Yes, Muna Fakhr? Question?
Yes, doctor. Can you explain the number 4, because I don't understand, because the internet is very weak in that time.
I went to see the doctor who told me I needed to change my diet.
Yes.
Now, الانسر was correct، لكن انا سألتكم ليش سويتوها non-defining؟ ليش ما سويتوها defining؟ مو ظلوا يدورون ويلفون ويلفون. قلت لكم الجواب the answer is within the question that I went to see the doctor. When I use the اللي هي definite article, right? the هي definite article.
Yes, right.
So I determine the person. I identify the person. إذا أنا أعرف الشخص, so the other information is going to be not necessary.
Yes, specific doctor.
Yeah. If it is a doctor, I went to see a doctor, not the doctor. Now it should be what? It should be what? Not defining. لازم تشيلين الكومة من هنا.
Define.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, يا
yes,
يقين.
I understand now. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Yes, يا يقين.
السلام عليكم دكتورة.
عليكم السلام.
دكتورة بس طالب مهدي سمير طلب من حضرتك إجازة لأن حاليا هو أبوي عمليات هسه.
اكتب على write on the Google Classroom for our
Sure.
Okay, our lecture today, and it's okay. Okay, thank you very much for your coming and listening. See you next week, and our lecture for the next week is going to be about noun clauses or noun.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Yes.
For interpreting again. In which sentence we depend on meaning, and in which place we depend on grammatical?
You depend upon the meaning when you have two sentences of the same idea, and I want you to differentiate between them, why the first one is defining, the second one is non-defining. Okay?
Where there no sentence and we write it if it's defining or not defining. Just when we have two sentences and we need to differentiate between the sentences.
When
Yes.
you want to differentiate between the two sentences.
And when we have one sentence, we need to.
And I ask you to. No, you have two sentences. And I want you to join these two sentences to be one sentence, complex sentence, by using relative adjective.
With do it if it's defining or non-defining.
Yeah. Okay.
In this case, we depend on grammatical.
Grammar, yeah. Mostly upon grammar and then upon the meaning. Also upon the meaning, but mostly upon the grammar.
Mostly on the grammar.
Yeah, يعني هسه حتى استخدام الذا هي استخدام الذا grammatical. مو صحيح؟ To show
yes,
something which is semantic. حتى تراويج فشي هو إله معنى مو صح؟ هي الذا هي صح grammatical بس حتى تبين لك إن هذا الدكتور
the meaning
is the specific one, not any one.
A specific one, yes, of course.
Yeah.
In fact, at the same moment I say, oh, I think the is the cause we put it non-defining, but I don't say that.
Okay. After all, you get it. After all, you get it. This is the most important thing.
It's the most important thing, yes, to do it in example.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I ask you a lot of questions.
No, it is okay.
Yes.
It is okay. To learn better than to.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you. And goodbye.
دكتورة الفيديو ممكن إذا ترسلينا أن هذا الفيديو التوضيح الثاني؟
Yes, of course. هو كلهم هو نفس راح أنزل لكم إياه إن شاء الله على الكلاس.
أول واحد عندنا إحنا يعني موجود البارت الأول بس الثاني يعني.
إن شاء الله.
دكتورة والإكسرسايز الأخير بعد ما ناخذه يعني لو ناخذه بالمحاضرة الجاية.
up to you. تبدون نحله تشوفونه صعب نحله ما تشوفونه مو صعب يعني up to you.
اوكي.
حلو ولا عندكم وحده تعاركتوا عليها تلاطشتوا عليها يعني اذا هيك ما عرفتوا.
دكتورة هو هذا يعني اخذناه بالمرحلة الأولى.
يعني هذا التمرين حالي بالمرحلة الأولى.
اي
تعرفون شنو وين الحل مالته او لا؟ اوكي.
اوكي ثانك يو.